Friday afternoon, evening, Saturday morning, if you're still with us on a Saturday morning. You're being quiet, Victor. Why are you being quiet?
Yeah, we just started.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, right, because since we're just starting, you have to be quiet.
Exactly.
Okay.
It like 30 seconds is maximum I can make it.
Okay, speaking of 30 seconds, time for the drinks.
There you go.
Yeah, you've got your cider. I still have 3 more calls today. I don't drink anyway, but I'm starting the caffeine a little bit earlier than normal.
I actually have a couple of calls
you.
left as well, but officially it is my working hours are finished, even though I will work after this, so I have all the excuses in the world.
Yeah, I'm glad I am not on the calls with you after the cider. Let's just put it that way. So welcome to Friday. We're still locked in the house. It's April 17th, at least where we're still at. It may be, if you're in Australia, it's already Saturday the 18th. That's great. You know what? Let's put this up, because I saw these this morning. We actually did a recording of the episode this morning. New and better headphones. What's up with the headphones?
Yeah, I mean, mine were so old that they started falling apart, so I bought new ones, but they're not much better. I mean, I had Bose before, now I have Sony. Yeah. They're more or less the same.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm annoyed with those ones. Actually, they are better in every single aspect except that you cannot connect to more than one device. And that's very annoying. Very, very annoying.
Well, see, I still wear wired. You can see in my ear here that I've got...
I'm
completely wired up, so...
You're too old to follow the trends. That's it.
I don't own a Bluetooth headphone anywhere, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Or maybe it is. I don't know. If you do have some questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. If you could, if it's like a real question that you've got, go ahead and put a Q in front of it. It'll just help make it pop out just a little bit more for me to see it. We had a couple of ideas of things to talk about. I'm going to bring up one thing that we didn't say we were going to talk about. So we recorded a podcast this morning that is going to release on, I think it's 2 weeks from now. And one of the things we talked about, it's about technical debt. And, that shouldn't be surprising to a lot of people. But one of the stories that I brought up was the bridge in Seattle that's now closed for potentially a couple of years. And depending on how bad it is, it might have to be completely replaced. And the sad thing is they have been finding cracks in the bridge since 2013 and documenting it. So if you've got a physical piece of infrastructure that you have thousands of vehicles going across a day, and you've known it for 7 years, and you're just now starting to think about doing something with it, and your only option is to close it, now adding another 45 minutes to an hour for people to redirect around, I'm making up some of these numbers because I don't know the actual story, but how does that go parallel with what you do in software? If you wait so long to do anything until you actually just have to shut it down.
If you change the word bridge for live system or cluster or something, you get exactly the same story.
Exactly. And that's irresponsible.
That's short-term thinking. That's what it is.
We'll get to it tomorrow, right? And tomorrow never comes because tomorrow becomes today when tomorrow arrives.
Except that, to be more precise, we'll get to it in the next quarter or whatever is the iteration that the company is working on, right? Kind of what is the measurable duration of time, and then you say plus 1 day. That's when you're gonna do it.
Well, it becomes everything's a fire today. We'll have to get these fires out first, and then we'll look at that. So you're just waiting for something else to become a fire before you even consider looking at it. So
there is also the other side of the story that some people go to other extreme and say, yeah, this is all horrible. This is all, we don't like it. We're going to replace everything, which is also very unrealistic.
Oh, yeah.
And the reality is, I think that the reason why we have unstable systems or old systems or systems like this or that is because it's actually extremely hard to balance all those different needs, right? We cannot stop the world because we need to rewrite something, but also we cannot keep it as is.
Right.
It is a challenge. It is a challenge, really, to make those decisions.
Yeah, because we can sit here on our couches with our beverages of choice and make these decisions in complete isolation. You should have done that. You should have done that. We didn't know what was going on at the previous time to where they couldn't make that decision. Yeah. Was it politics? Was it budget constraints? Was it fill in the blank? It could have been anything. We don't have the full story either. We're just being an armchair quarterback right now.
No, that does not excuse them, just to be clear.
It doesn't excuse it. Absolutely. But we also can't point the finger either because we don't have full context.
Yeah.
Now, if you were the one that was in the middle of it the whole time, you do have full context, and you were either being told to shut up, we'll deal with it later, then it's on you. You should have left. Oh, it's your fault.
Yeah, depends whether we're talking you should have left if we're talking about bridge or software. For software, it's easier to leave, kind of like there is a huge demand.
Yeah. Bridge.
If you're working on painting a bridge, then that's a bit more challenging to say, I'm gone. I'm going to go and ask Bill Gates to give me a job.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on from that one. So anyway, that episode is coming out. When did I say that one was coming out? That one's coming out on the 29th, so in 2 weeks, or roughly 10 days. If you haven't listened to this week's episode with Adam, we tried to get Adam on just to sort of do like an after party with his episode, but we actually didn't give him time to think about it. We called him like 5 minutes ago, and so he couldn't be here. So if Adam, if you're listening or ever see this again, we're sorry. We need to be better. We being me, I should have invited you. My fault. So
this is a personal message to Adam. If you think that there is anything else more important than this, you're terribly wrong.
Does he have kids?
No, but he has a girlfriend who happens to have a birthday today. So,
that is more important, Adam. I will take your side on that. So that's fine.
No.
Okay.
No.
You're wrong. I'm right.
There are birthdays every year.
Yeah, and
every year.
It's like I have an anniversary every year, and I think out of the 30 years that we've been married, we've actually been physically together on our anniversary probably 3 times because I've always been on the road. So it's, to us, we don't know any different. We just celebrate it whenever it's there. Or we actually celebrate it all year round, and then when it actually gets here, it's like, oh, it's that day again. And baby, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'll pay for that later, I guess. So if you haven't listened to the episode with Adam, we need to do a part 2 of that because I've talked about this before. Is I completely disagree with both Victor and Adam on a few of their points. Now, when it's all said and done, we'll probably agree to disagree on a couple things, and we'll probably agree on the bigger points, the foundationals. Yeah, probably the foundationals. Because again, going back to what we were just talking about with the bridge, we don't have all the context. So I'm working on a very narrow view of what's going on.
No, but I'm going to disagree until my last breath, no matter what you say. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about disagreeing things. You've been working with EKS some, or attempting to work with EKS some.
Yeah, that's where we disagree. I really dislike EKS. I think it's not good at all.
Okay, I mean, explain why you don't think it's good. Use your words carefully here.
Compared to, given certain point of reference. So my reference is EKS, AKS, GK, right?
Correct.
Under no conditions I'm saying EKS is bad, better don't go EKS at all. That's not what I'm saying, right?
Right.
But it's simply kind of, there are things missing that I can do. I know that I can do, but why I don't want to do because I expect those things to be part of the package.
Okay, name those things.
Upgrade the cluster. We were speaking before. You need to create a second node group yourself, right? Or something like that. Do it safely. Why?
Yes.
Kind of like, why? I just want to say, I want to upgrade the cluster, and you do the bloody work. That's why I'm paying you for the service.
Okay. So in comparison to, and you're comparing this to GKE, right?
Or AKS.
Or AKS.
For that feature, yes.
Okay, fair enough. I will say, now, I spend more time with EKS than anything else because most people that I work with are on AWS, that if they're in the cloud, they're in AWS and not the other two in general. And I've I guess I've reconciled myself to just dealing with it, so it's not a big deal to me anymore. But one of the things that would be nice is to have cluster auto-scaling be an option, not to where I would have to go and do it.
Yeah.
That's a basic one.
How about monitoring being true-false? How about logging being true-false? It would be nice. Yes. I know that we can do those things. I know that we can do that. That's absolutely not a problem. Kind of like we have enough experience, we can do all this stuff. Or how about saying I want EKS cluster instead of saying I want EKS cluster and see here is the subnet, here are the permissions, here is this, here is that. So when you set it up, EKS works just as well as any other.
Yes.
But I'm lazy. Kind of like I like that to be all part of the nice package.
Yeah.
I always use Apple as example, even though I'm not fond of Apple as a company. I want to open the box and say, oh, look at it. It works.
Yep. Unless you're me using now a 4 or 5 year old device that if I listen to one specific podcast, it always crashes, which I haven't figured out why listening to a specific podcast causes my phone to completely crash. It's very bizarre. But anyway, I still can't prove it, and I don't want to give the time more to that. Now, your frustration specifically has been with Terraform, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, Terraform, so I think it's the same. So my choices are Terraform, which is more or less neglected, CloudFormation, which I despise. I'm trying to find fancy words. So
hate. Yeah, okay.
Hate, okay. And EKS Scuttle, which is great, except that I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't care what's in the background, but I don't want to run a command. I don't want to store it in Git, right? Kind of, I don't want to run ad hoc random commands. So kind of like I need to choose between.
Oh, wait. Time out. You don't want to run a command, but you're okay running Terraform?
Yeah, because I tell Terraform run what is in what I defined in a Git repo, converge actual to the desired state and all those good things that we like, right?
Okay. All right.
Doesn't matter whether we're talking about Terraform, Ansible, CF Engine, Chef Puppet, doesn't matter. I want to define something and say, do the job, right?
Okay. All right. I won't push you too far on that one. I can do the same thing with EKS Scuttle, but whatever.
Yeah, it just kind of like the problem I have with CLI commands is that they foster some type of behavior which I don't like, rather than that they are evil in themselves. Kind of like it kind of indirectly tells people it's okay if you do some random thing by executing random command that I don't know about and I cannot track down and I cannot follow and all those things. It's more about bad behavior than that. EKS Scuttle is bad. It's great. Actually. It's probably the best way to set up EKS cluster.
Here's a question.
Okay, when the KS comparison course will be available?
The first course that we announced that I was supposed to finish and haven't because of everything else.
Yeah, but now
this needs to be part of the new thing. This needs to be part of the new thing.
Yes, so we are working now on how to set up properly a Kubernetes cluster using Terraform in big providers, Google, Amazon, Azure. And I didn't put it on my to-do list, but it can be some kind of comparison at the end. Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, because we might as well repurpose what you had started on.
Yeah,
way back when.
Or when we finish it, we can have a live session or podcast. I don't know comparison in which form, but let's promise that we're gonna do that one way or another.
Yeah, well, there's no reason not to. right? Now,
Yeah.
here's going to be the thing. What's going to happen to us again as soon as we get that done? What happened last time where we pulled it? Because we were almost ready to drop it, and then it was EKS changed.
Yeah, it's kind of
What was it?
by the time we finished, one of them changed, and then by the time we updated that one, the other one changed. So the rate of change was so rapid that as soon as we finished one, then the other one would need to be changed drastically and stuff like that.
Yeah, we were just ahead of the curve. I think it's slowed down a little bit now, though, right? I mean, now that 15 is the GA for everybody, it seems to be pretty more.
Yes, except that right now, and this is now literally 2 minutes before we start this session, I was upgrading my cluster in Azure AKS, and when you run the upgrade, it upgrades the control plane, doesn't upgrade, it completely ignores node pool, worker nodes. So I spent actually minutes before this session hunting down specific issues in GitHub and found it and all of it. And now it bloody doesn't work and I cannot continue working on that one.
So did it used to work?
I mean, but it must have worked sometime. I mean, I was using it in the past. I know it worked actually. It's just that it doesn't work anymore. Joys of life.
Yeah, okay. We got another question here. Let's see what it is. From Andre. Regarding integration test, is it okay to use test containers for integration test? Or should the test run in a Kubernetes environment? That's a good question. So he's talking about I'm assuming he means the init containers.
So yeah, I'm not sure what by test containers means because the short answer is if it's a container, it can run in Kubernetes. So it's not or between those two phrases, right? So maybe you want to clarify. Now, if you mean to run Docker Compose in versus Kubernetes, I vote for Kubernetes. If the question is,
Well, okay, so unless you don't have Kubernetes.
Then get it. I mean, I can say the same. Unless you don't have a laptop, or unless you don't have a virtual machine, unless you got a laptop that doesn't allow virtualization because the company disabled it by default and doesn't allow you admin permissions to change it. And I'm not joking right now because I know you're not joking. Many times. That's because virtualization is evil.
Hyper-V is disabled and everything's horrible.
Exactly. So unless there is a lot of unlesses, I guess. I can understand.
So let's look at it again. So use test containers. Andre, can you, I know there's a little bit of a lag here, actually a lot of a lag. Can you clarify what you mean by test containers here? Because we could keep rambling, but that's not going to help you any. So
and how I see it, until you clarify, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to put it on a very high level, right? You deploy your application, and that's one process, and then you run some tests, and that's another process. And this is not really related, even whether we're talking about Kubernetes, Docker, or VMs, or what we are running, right? You deploy, and then you run some tests. Eventually, maybe you want to shut down the deployment afterwards, right? Yeah. And those are, to me, two separate processes. If the question would be, for example, should I add init containers to the pods of my application? I would say no, because the closer you are to production, the better. So I always prefer having it separate.
Right.
A kind of process that runs the test themselves from the process that runs the application.
So you have another application that spins up that runs the test and then it destroys itself.
Yeah. So I mean, it's two. Let's forget about Kubernetes container stuff. It's two processes, right? It's you spin up application like JVM, this or Python, and I don't care what it is, and then you spin up a second process that is actually execution of the tests.
Yeah. So it's like thinking about JMeter, Selenium, any of those. It's a separate process from what the application was. You're just feeding data into that driver, if you will, let the driver do its thing based on its roadmap, and once it's done, it gives you a report of some shape or form.
Yeah. Oh, we have a clarification here.
Oh, okay, good. There we go.
You want to read it?
Test container is a Java library. Okay, well, I didn't know about that. Okay. Well, since we have the interwebs.
Yeah, I haven't used it myself, so.
See, you said Java, and I should know Java, and I do. But, oh, there it is. Interesting. Hang on a second. Let me make sure I share the right screen here. Not that one. This one. Okay. And here it is. I'll punch him out here for just a second, and then we'll come back. So here's test containers. Never heard of it before. We have new information. Right there.
Okay, but, judging by the first sentence, basically, the name is kind of misleading. It's just a Java library that runs some tests, right? So, yes, why not? Why not?
I guess the answer is it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so kind of, to me, those things are...
Here. Let's do Spock. Let's be weird and do Spock.
Great, because I don't know what it is, so great.
Okay,
so it's a testing framework, right?
Yeah. So there's Spock, and let's look at JUnit 4 because that's what most everybody else is used to seeing. And there's that one. Yeah.
I still don't understand this or something Kubernetes because I see them as complementary things, unrelated, though. So kind of assuming that while you're checking it, assuming that I understood what it is, it's just a testing framework that runs in a JVM, right? And then you choose how to run that JVM. Is it kind of like directly on a VM, directly on bare metal, in a container, what's not? And now since I'm freak about containers, I would always say container, right?
Right. It's always containers. See, you even have containers, right?
There you go.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else that jumps about here. So this is something you've never heard of it, right? I've never.
No. So I'm probably talking nonsense right now.
Yeah, and we are. We always talk nonsense.
No.
But this is extreme nonsense because we're guessing.
But kind of, if I misunderstood, and if this goes beyond being a library, right, that does something.
Yeah.
And it does create some container, kind of container.
Yeah, it looks like it does. I mean, let me pop it back up here. So here's an example. It's spinning up a container, give it the image, give it the exposed port. This looks like a YAML-ish, or excuse me, a Docker Compose file, right?
But this is where then let's read the comment, and then I'm going to say how I dislike it, because I already started from I love it until to I really dislike it.
Yeah.
The point. So I don't know enough about to actually answer this comment. Now, what I don't like is that level of coupling. So that's serving as some kind of testing framework or whatever it is. If that's it at all, great. But to me, creating containers through this syntax, whatever it is, doesn't sound like a good idea, because basically you're moving away from the way to do things that is most likely supported by everybody else and the other toolings that you're going to use and stuff like that. So kind of, I always like being close to some kind of standard, because then I can assume that other tooling that I have in my ecosystem is more likely to follow the standard. Like run it with Helm, for example, or use this or that.
Right. I don't see, because I was trying to find anything here with seeing if there was anything to integrate with just Kubernetes out of the box. But okay, here, general Docker requirements. That's probably better. When was the last release on this? Here, let's go take a look at that. Well, I shouldn't have looked at that.
No,
so it's active.
It's under active. That's great. But
Active good, but then last release was 4 days ago. Okay.
I don't know whether I had it with you or somebody else not long ago, that discussion about Terraform versus Pulumi.
It's probably me. It's probably me.
Because this to me sounds similar, and I really like the idea behind Pulumi, and I think it's very attractive and tempting to use it. But then again, it doesn't provide necessarily, is not compelling enough for me to switch from something that is some kind of standard that I expect others to help me with.
I understand your discomfort with that. I disagree with you. I think Pulumi is, if you're having to bring in people that are real developers and they're having now to learn HCL, but they were already a Go developer, a JavaScript developer, a fill in the blank, whatever other languages that Pulumi is supporting, I think it's silly to have to learn HCL if I've got something that abstracts and wraps around and generates the Terraform. That's not what it's doing, but it's effectively what it's doing, right?
That's absolutely true. Except the other argument about support from others. So let's say, and I was using this example not as a marketing one, mostly because we spoke about it yesterday. Kind of we are about to provide people who use Jenkins X Terraform definitions to set up the cluster instead of whatever we had before. Right. Doesn't matter. Right. Now, because we assume that that's what people use. And now, if you
that's a bad assumption, right? That's a bad assumption.
No. Yeah, it's not a bad. You need to make some assumptions. Say what is the most commonly used. I'm going to start from there, and tomorrow I might add Ansible. I might add Pulumi, right?
Yeah.
I might add other supports, but this is the starting point because it is most commonly used and it's cool at the same time. So, right. I mean, it's not only being most commonly used. And then if you're a Pulumi user, then you would say, what the heck is that? I don't understand that syntax. I need to learn that as well. It's a similar argument I had, again, I don't remember with whom, how actually I prefer Linkerd over Istio, but I still use Istio rather than Linkerd because all the other stuff that I want to use happens to support Istio and something else or only Istio.
Right. So you're trying to find that common denominator to get your biggest blast radius in a good way, not a bad way.
It's kind of a balance between how helpful that is for me in isolation and how likely it is that other parts of my system are going to integrate with it effortlessly.
Yeah.
Similar. 2 days ago, I spoke with the company. I don't remember. They had some ticketing system that is not Jira and not GitHub items, right? Something else. Doesn't matter what it is. And then my argument is, hey, look, why don't you switch to Jira, GitHub issues? Mostly because then we can give you experience with all the other stuff out of the box.
Were they already using GitHub? Were they using GitHub?
No, yeah, they're using GitHub, right? And then for issues, they're using some other Mantis or Mentis or something like that. Doesn't matter.
Gosh. But really?
Yeah. Oh but now I'm not entering. I did not enter into discussion kind of like whether GitHub issues are better or worse. That wasn't my focus. It was more like kind of if you do GitHub issues, then out of the box with this we can do that. With that we can do this, and with this we can do that.
Yep.
Right? But if you're with Mantis, doesn't matter whether it's better or no. All those things that I just told you, you will need to develop yourself.
Yep.
Because it's Mantis, right? And I'm not rushing now Mantis. I don't know anything about it, so I don't know whether it's good or bad.
No, you keep talking. I'll pull it up because I used Mantis back in the late 90s.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, so it's. Let's see. I'll go ahead and pull it up. I'm not going to throw my. Oh, they've updated their site since the mid 90s. That's a good thing. So there's.
Hey, looked like it's designed in 2000. That's great.
Yeah, it's
not 80s.
Yeah. It's not 80s. So anyway, I use it. Yeah, so it goes back. Okay, I said 90s. It was 2000. But I use Mantis. And Mantis wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't a bad thing. But in today's world, if I'm going to be using GitHub, I'm going to be using issues as much as I can. Yeah. Just because it's there. And it's more than fine.
Yeah, and even if you say issues are not good, I'm okay if you use Jira. I mean, I'm not fond of Jira. Let's clarify.
Yeah.
But it's okay because again, there is a reasonable assumption that vendor of the software X third party is going to integrate it with, right?
Yes.
Because kind of it's big.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely, if I would be saying use only big players, then I would be out of job.
Yeah.
I'm just saying try to find the balance between usefulness and adoption.
So in the case of if I'm a small-ish shop, small to medium shop, and I don't have a ticketing system and I'm using GitHub, I'm going to use issues for as long as I possibly can before I go and move to Jira or anything else. Why? It's integrated.
Yeah.
And it's a reasonable integration. It's not an all-in-one box, right? I'm not going to get into GitHub Actions or anything else here. But if I'm writing code, I know if I'm writing code, I'm going to have tickets or issues that I have to deal with. Those two are very, very, to me, tightly bound. I don't mind those two things being in a box together. Very reasonable.
Yeah.
Adding other things, okay, then that's icing on a cake that you have to make a bigger decision on.
Exactly. That's very similar to conversation, like, SVN versus Git. It's not anymore which is better. It's just kind of fun. Nobody's using it.
Well, okay, so it does matter because Subversion can be used horribly wrong because there is a standard to using Subversion that a lot of people just don't follow. And if you don't follow it right, you can have lots of problems. Same thing with Git, but Subversion exposed it worse. Andre, I hope we answered your question. If not, we probably made you more confused, which probably didn't help matters any.
Yeah, I apologize in advance, Andre, because I even forgot that you asked the question. I probably went somewhere completely different.
Well, it's still okay. So let me pull up his last comment just to make sure that if you need to test the integration in the Kubernetes network or if running in a Docker network is okay. I mean, if I'm going to be testing something, there's a point that unit test makes sense, and there's a point that integration test makes sense. And to me, if you're not going to be running locally, then it doesn't make sense. If you're only going to be running it in Kubernetes, you should be testing it in Kubernetes. That is the integration test. I think that's probably true. I'd have to think through that a little bit more. But okay, Alfonso has a question for us. And Andre, you can add in more too. Can you use issues for problems which aren't in the repo? Oh my gosh, yes, you can. I've seen people actually just use GitHub issues, but not actually put their code in GitHub, and they're using other fill-in-the-blank. Bitbucket was the one I saw. They were using Bitbucket for code and using GitHub issues.
But, kind of...
Why?
How often there are issues to begin with that are completely unrelated with any repo, assuming that you keep your stuff in repos? So that's a big assumption. Yeah. I understand. Documentations are written in Excel sheets and all those things. Yeah. I understand that. But if you start tracking changes for your software, which is documentation, test, code, blah, 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 blah.
Yep. I have seen one other use case to where they were using issues for everything. So every department, whether they were writing code or not, got a GitHub repo. And all the tickets went through issues. All the tickets. So there was no code in the repo. It was just basically a holder for issues.
Exactly. Because
I've seen that a couple of times.
There is no actually direct connection between repos and issues.
No.
Except that there is a tab where you go to your repo that says issues, right? But they're completely decoupled features, right?
The way they get tied, at least from a GitHub perspective, is you closed number 10, fixed number 10, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And that's the tie. But they can be decoupled. I mean, it makes sense to keep them together. It also makes sense to decouple them. It makes sense to have it just as a regular issue tracker. That's one thing we haven't talked about today either. GitHub for Teams went free this past week.
Yeah, it's kind of.
So I have a pro account. You have a pro account.
Yeah.
We're going to get a credit, and instead of paying $7 a month, now we're going to be paying $4 a month for that, right? Okay, sure.
I mean, GitHub is one of those things on almost the same level as, let's say, Google and a few others. Kind of, internet would not exist without GitHub, just like it wouldn't exist these days without
AWS and
Google.
Yeah. So it's all the core GitHub features are now free for everybody, right? So if you haven't looked at this this week, or if you're there was an FAQ that talks about it. This document was the one I was trying to find. There it is. So here's all the FAQs and upgrades and all this other stuff. So if you're not using GitHub and you were using something else, like one of my friends, as soon as I saw this, I sent it to him. I was like, okay, we need to get off your existing thing and go here, because this will be a better solution for you long term.
But that's the thing, kind of, in self-hosted solution, I understand that there is still a battle going on, GitHub, GitLab. I don't know whether Stash is still alive, right? That's a valid discussion. But if you're talking as a service, that's a done deal, kind of like it's GitHub, kind of. To be honest, in the past, so I'm going to skip what I like more and stuff like that. I was using GitLab, but mostly because it was free and GitHub was not, and then eventually GitHub became so cheap, and now it's free as well. Private repos.
Yep.
I need now to find a reason why not to use it. Before I had to justify the price, right? Now I need to find the reason why not.
If you're on-premise versus not on-premise. That's the only argument you have at this point, right?
I'm now talking about kind of SaaS, right? Service.
Right. As a service, I can't think of a reason why not to use it.
Every single project you want to fork is there. Everything you want to contribute is there. Literally everything is there.
Yeah. I don't know why you wouldn't use it. Am I anti using Bitbucket Cloud or using GitLab Cloud or whatever their phrasing is? No, I'm not against it. It's just a harder sell for me now. After this week, especially. Okay. Got a question from Roman, one of our coworkers, regarding that conversation on issue trackers. Can GitHub issues replace Jira? That's a loaded question.
Oh, there's two questions here. No, that's three. To me, first of all, for personal use, professional usage, that only depends on me, let's say.
Yeah.
Before I go to others. I have it clear GitHub because I was lazy in the past, but last couple of months I actually started using different services that are sitting on top of GitHub. And basically what you can do is limitless now. There are so many services that allow you to that are using GitHub issues as a base. Mm-hmm. That basically anything you can imagine now can be based on GitHub issues.
Can you name any of those? Can you name any of those?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Keep going.
No, not because I don't want to, but because it's simply I open links and then I don't never pay even attention what's the brand, right?
Okay. Fair enough.
I can send it later and put it as comments.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is that I have a impression that now GitHub issues are becoming not anymore something that we use, but as a low-level standard on top of which others are bringing good stuff. Right? Okay. Same like we don't use pods directly, right? We use different higher level of pod functions in Kubernetes. Yep. I think it's the same thing with GitHub. That's a standard. If you need more, use something on top of it.
Yep. Okay. All right. So that's the initial. So let's pull this back up. So would it completely replace Jira? It depends on. I don't think it would completely replace Jira, especially if your shop is considered to be an agile shop, because they'll need more tools than just issues. If you're a highly functioning shop to where you don't need agile, there I said it out loud, then the answer is maybe. It might be able to replace Jira.
Yeah. And then Jira is a serious player, so kind of
Yes.
like it's
I'm not
it's
throwing
not
them under the bus at all. I mean,
Jira will stay, and then there are. I mean, I actually, as a user, not administrator, I must stress this drastically because I did administrate Jira a long, long time ago, and I hated my life. But as a user, Jira is okay. I have a problem with companies abusing Jira and creating some ridiculous flows.
Yep.
But if it's kind of like pending, in progress, done status, and then some fields that are simple to fill, I'm fine with Jira. I don't really mind.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to. So we'll move on from that. Considering GitHub Actions, will GitHub try to cover everything in the chain? So right now they have issues. They have the source control, and they've got something that can do actions. CI-ish. We'll leave it at the CI level at this point.
The literal answer to the question, if you take it literally, is yes. And that's not even related to GitHub. Every single vendor, when they establish themselves as being good at some area, is trying to expand, right? And that includes us, that includes GitHub, that includes every single vendor there is on Earth, right? And of course that they're going to cover more ground. And basically everything ends up these days pointing to some form of SDM, right? It's just that we're coming from different directions, but kind of that whole bubble or whole package is called SDM, whatever that is today.
Right. So there's one system. I'm going to put this up over here first. Where am I? So there's this service that I found the other day called LGTM. And it was run by a company, meaning they were acquired by, or whatever, I'm going to call it acquired by GitHub. But LGTM, and it's continuous security analysis. And what's interesting about it, and I actually pulled up wait, did I pull it? Oh, okay, it opened a new window. So you can search here. I'm going to look for one of Victor's, whoops, I can't even spell his name today. So if you know of any open source projects that are there, we found the Docker Flow Jenkins, right?
I haven't updated it in 2 years.
In 2 years, but you've got 2 errors and 2 warnings.
Yeah.
Right? This is what you were just talking about, to where you're not necessarily going to GitHub just for the GitHub stuff, but throughout their ecosystem, they're adding these extra things on top of to make it even more in the box, I guess, if you want to call it that way. It looks like it's in the box, but it's really not in the box. It's a more unified experience, I'll call it that. So, or it can be.
Kind of, I would put GitHub repos and GitHub issues in one box and then actions in another, right?
Yes.
Because repos and issues are now lowest possible common denominator that we're all using and building on top of. And then actions, that's still a battle. It's still undecided whether that's a good thing or better thing or a worse thing than others, right? So,
but it's a thing.
It's a thing, yes. Now
there's one more. We haven't said it yet. I'm going to say it now just to make it even worse. We have GitHub packages now. That's in the binary repository space.
Yeah.
So you got issues, source code, a build, I'll call it automation, a task runner, and you've got the package repository.
Yeah, but that's already, but I still like to separate. That's already a bit harder to swallow, kind of. So, for example, if I'm running in AWS, then I might seriously consider, instead of using that, using whatever AWS gives me, because it's a bloody repository. I don't really care anymore.
It's code
somewhere.
Yeah, code star.
It's stored somewhere. It's kind of like, to me, what is a repository? That doesn't bring any value anymore. Kind of like, you store some files somewhere. So there you go. Kind of like, exactly. And similar thing with actions. That is kind of like, there are 5,000 solutions. None of them is winning right now in that area. And
well, we know one that's losing, right?
Which one?
Travis.
Travis. That's finished story. Yes.
Yeah. But then, of course, Alfonso sort of nails it on the head here. It's Microsoft.
Yes, but actually, it's not Microsoft really. First of all, and I was very anti-Microsoft, and that's not my favorite company. But first time, I always repeat the same thing. Microsoft is not the same company as it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They do good stuff. They do bad stuff as well, but it's not only bad. And I'm not trying to fool myself. The only difference, AWS is trying to control everything just as well as Microsoft. Google is trying to. We are all trying. If you give me power to control the world, I'm going to try to control it as well. So that's almost inevitable. But what does matter is what type of a game are you playing while you're trying to control the world? And I would actually argue that within the big three, AWS is playing dirtier than Microsoft. They haven't done anything really terribly wrong with acquiring GitHub, right?
No.
There were rumors and everybody started yelling, I'm never going to use GitHub again because it was... But the world, everything continues. And now they even dropped the prices. They're now even lower than they were before and all those things. So it's not a bad thing. Maybe it will be in the future and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're playing nice with open source. They're really not trying to kill companies. I cannot be angry at Microsoft. I don't like them, but...
Yeah, that's... Okay. Roman had a follow-up here. Sometimes it's much easier to be good at one thing than to be... You typically will be... If you try to be everything to everybody, you're going to be nothing to no one.
Yeah,
that's a broad statement, but
it's impossible to be very good at one thing for a long time. And the reason is very simple. All the companies we're discussing right now, they're publicly traded, owned companies that have shareholders that are going to continue giving money to that company or pull somewhere else and go somewhere else, right? That's every single company we discussed.
Yep.
So you cannot stay in one place always, indefinitely, right? So if you're just good at one thing, 3 years from now, that's not good enough anymore. Even if you maintain the market and all those things, you cannot grow indefinitely with a single thing.
Right.
Everybody, that's how the business world works in the world. And we can now discuss whether that's a good thing or no, but I don't know if a company that can just say, I'm in a good place, I'm going to stay there.
Tesla.
They're trying to stay where they are. They're trying to go to Mars.
What day of the week is it? I don't know. Well, of course, SpaceX isn't Tesla and Tesla isn't SpaceX, but, it's joking, but not really. Okay, so let's add this in here from Alfonso.
It isn't one person attempting to do all things. It's various MSFT companies and teams owning parts of the pipeline, GitHub, Visual Studio Code, .NET, etc. Yes.
Yeah, but it still gets back to GitHub, though. GitHub has those 4 basic functions built in now. Issues, source control, building, and package repository. That's built in just to GitHub.
Yeah.
Right. So but can you compare that to Artifactory, Jira, GitHub, and what's the other piece I'm missing? Oh, we'll throw Jenkins in there, right? Just as a build, right? There's usually downsides for an all-in-one solution. Versus
there are upsides.
There are upsides, and there are upsides too. I have one bill. Right? That's one thing. I have one bill. I don't have to think about, I don't have to negotiate contracts. I don't have to do all the other things. I might be willing to take the trade-offs in that, just like it's good enough for now. If I need the other features later on, I'll go get them then. Right? Yeah. That seems reasonable. But and it says here, and it's not necessarily being evil, it's just being present.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I agree.
I want to go back to this previous statement here. VS Code. I still can't believe that came out of Microsoft.
Yeah. But I cannot also believe. I cannot imagine me going to anything else today.
At this, for a normal basic text editor or beyond a basic text editor,
Anything.
oh my gosh. Well, I still use IntelliJ, but
You know that if you exclude when I record the demo, if you exclude that part,
yep.
I don't remember last time I opened terminal that is not in VS Code.
Really?
Never.
So
I
you
mean,
stay,
I haven't,
you stay in terminal in VS Code.
because it's first of all the terminal itself. Without talking that I have both things at the same place, right? Kind of code and terminal. Terminal itself is superior to anything I can have that I know of.
Yeah.
Alone, and then at the same time I have code and terminal all together and all that stuff. It's amazing. I love it.
See, I'm still old. I guess I'll always be
I mean,
old.
you cannot be still old. You can just get older.
I cannot bring myself to use a terminal inside of any IDE. I just can't. I have to go to a shell. I just have to pop open a new terminal window and go there. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you the same thing that I was told before VS Code. I'm going to make a bet you use for 2 weeks exclusively Visual Studio Code, and then you tell me you stay or you leave. If you stay, you lose the bet. If you leave, you win.
Okay.
It's kind of honor-based bet. It's trust-based.
I still don't know. Okay, so here's the problem, though, is I use ZSH.
I use as well, and I have it in a terminal in Visual Studio Code, and it works better than in
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, see, all right. There's a video that we need to do. That, you know what? In this new thing that we're doing, we need to show people how to actually use Visual Studio Code.
Yes.
That would be a good look, because obviously I'm a bonehead and didn't even know that.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm writing the note right now because I don't really care about people listening.
Yeah. So here's the deal. If you're still using Atom, which came from GitHub, stop doing that and just move to VS Code, because they're both built on Electron, which Electron came out of GitHub. Electron's a great application development framework if you can actually understand JavaScript. I can't. It's like I was talking to somebody the other day. It's like, look, I can do calculus, but don't ask me to do basic math. It's just, I can't do that in my head anymore. Calculus, yeah, I can do that in my head. Or I used to be able to. Probably not anymore today. And we're getting close to the top of the hour. So a couple other comments. I'm gonna let those comments just sort of flow through right there. If anybody has any questions or a couple of closing questions, go ahead and drop them in right now. I know it takes up to a couple of minutes, so I'm just going to chill out here and we'll talk about. So we got to do that VS Code thing. That'd be pretty interesting, because that could be useful for everybody, right?
Yeah.
How do you typically use it though? What's your typical tool chain within VS Code?
No, I have only my browser and VS Code open. That's it. That's the only two things. Yeah. That's the only two things. I mean, excluding occasionally starting Zoom because of some meeting and stuff like. But
you said the Z word. You said the Z word. Don't say that Z word.
Zoom. Okay.
Hangouts. I don't have. Where's your clicker? We need that. We need to be able to mute that and not say that word.
True. But yeah, the only two constant things that I have in my laptop. I have two monitors. One, a big one, Visual Studio Code all the time, and the other one is browser. That's my complete setup. And
then you have a laptop screen in the middle, or no?
Yeah, so laptop is browser and the big screen Visual Studio Code.
Oh, so you only have you have the laptop and you have one. So you actually only have two monitors in total.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we need to. You need to break out your phone and take a video, or at least a screenshot of what your setup is.
Yeah.
Not right now. Not right now.
Not that I forget within 15 minutes. Whatever you tell me.
We have sick. I'll open a GitHub issue for you on that. That's how some people use it, just for tracking things. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else that I ran into this week that was interesting. Oh, WebEx. You said the Z word. I'm going to say the W word.
What is WebEx?
That's the.
It's like that Before I was also saying when people tell me something Windows, what is Windows? I don't know. I haven't seen that in a while.
It's the other W word. I was teaching a class for 2 days this week, and I'm surprised I still have a voice. Because it's like when you do your talks, you're 30 minutes to an hour. You might talk to some people for a little bit after that, and you're pretty much done, right? I had 2 8-hour days of talking. Well, it wasn't full 8 hours, but 6 hours at least of talking each day. And even though it sounds like I can talk a lot, my voice doesn't hold out for super long. But anyway, what's interesting about WebEx is I was using my cool little tool, which you guys can't see out of frame here. It's basically a TV studio switcher in a can. And what happened, and it sends out 1080p. So if you know anything, that's HD. What WebEx does is they take that 1080p feed and they crank it down to anywhere between 180 and 480p. So it made my slides look like garbage. So I've got to come up with a different plan for future things with text. So if you're using WebEx, it doesn't happen with Zoom. It doesn't happen with Google Meet. GoToMeeting has a different set of issues, but it didn't cause the fuzziness. But GoToMeeting has a different issue. And
when was the last time you heard anybody using WebEx or GoToMeeting by choice? And I repeat, by choice.
By choice? Nowhere. Everybody's using the Z word. Which
it doesn't have to be Z. There are other options there. Blue Jeans is cool. Hangouts is cool. Is still
Did you
working.
see Blue Jeans got bought by Verizon?
Really?
Yep. That was announced yesterday or day before yesterday. Yep. Verizon bought Blue Jeans. So now we'll just have to see what happens with that. Verizon's usually a pretty good, not maintainer, what's the word I'm looking for? Curator of the stuff they get in general.
Okay.
All right. So we'll see if it stays that way or not. I would imagine it would be because they're pretty reasonable. I'll put this up here. Like I said, I skipped a couple. If you want to go back and look, the whole chat will be left up if you're watching this, so you'll be able to spin back through the chat and see all those things. So Ramin, thanks. You have a good weekend too. Everybody else, just I guess hang out, go outside if you're allowed to go outside. If you're not allowed to go outside, at least try to steal a few minutes outside. Find a dog to steal.
I actually run. It's a silly thing, unrelated, but I enjoyed so much reading a story yesterday about a guy that was caught by a police because police saw that the same dog was walked around the block by 4 different people. And it turned out that they were all paying the owner of the dog to rent the dog.
Rent the dog. Hey, man.
Because you rent the dog.
That capitalism thing, it works. Let's say that. Maybe. So I think that's all the time that we're going to have for today, because actually I have a call that I have to start again in 30 minutes with a client. Yeah. So, and you've got another call going. So I think we're going to call this one done for today. If you haven't joined up for in the Slack workspace, please go ahead and do that. The link to the Slack workspace is down below. And sign up there. That's where you get notifications. If you saw it through LinkedIn today or through Twitter, thanks for following that. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're above 100, so that gave us the ability to give it a short URL, even though it's not super short, but at least it's better than the big, ugly letters that normal YouTube channels are. And so we're on our way to 1,000. Right? We got through 100. Now the next big, 250 is the next big one, but 1,000's the next big one. So once we get 1,000, what are we going to do when we have 1,000 subscribers? Tell all your friends. Just go have your grandma subscribe to us, because Victor's usually pretty good about his language. Yeah, of course. We'll see. Okay, everybody. Thanks. Have a great weekend. We should see you next week unless something bizarre happens. So, peace out, everybody. Thanks.
Cheers, everyone.